Have you ever dreamed of escaping the hustle and bustle for a more vibrant, affordable, and fulfilling life abroad? Well, you're in for a treat. You're about to meet Greg Kitzmiller, who took the leap with his wife Jen and retired to the breathtaking paradise of Panama. But Panama wasn't just a picturesque retirement spot for them. They discovered an incredible community of artists, writers, painters, and musicians, all thriving in this tropical haven. And guess what? Greg got so inspired by the creativity around him that he published not one, but 2 books, and he's already working on his 3rd.
We never imagined we'd find such a supportive and inspirational community here. Panama isn't just about the beautiful landscapes. It's about following your dreams and finding people who uplift and encourage you every step of the way.
If you've ever thought about chasing your dreams in a place where creativity flourishes and life is not only cheaper, but richer in so many ways, stick around. We'll dive into how Panama can be the perfect place for you to start your next adventure. Don't miss out. Hit that subscribe button and join us on this journey of discovery and inspiration. Let's turn dreams into reality together. Welcome to the Panama Podcast, from dreaming to doing. I'm your host, Melissa Darnay, an American who's been living her someday, every day since 2012. Get ready for a weekly dose of Panama sunshine and inspiration, from hilarious expat adventures to insider tips on living, investing, and having a blast in Panama. Curious to learn more? Go to choosepanama.com and snag your free copy of Panama Uncorked. Greg, welcome to the Panama Podcast. What was the catalyst that led you from dreaming about living overseas to packing your bags and buying your airline ticket?
Wow, great question. In 2017, I started doing the research, and Panama kept coming to the top of the list for cost of living and benefits for expats and all the things, the great climate and just everything. And we came and we took a week vacation. We stayed just right down the street at Dreams Playa Bonita, and we spent a week, and we decided we wanted to come back for an exploratory trip. We spent about 9 weeks on the ground a few months later, and that was all it took. We went home and packed our bags.
Had you considered other countries other than Panama?
Yeah, definitely. We considered Colombia, Costa Rica.
And why did Panama win over some of those other countries?
Probably because I thought we were going to find a lot more North Americans here. Maybe we would have found more in some of the other places, but the U.S. currency, proximity to the States was important. We want to be close so that we can go home if we want to without a lot of
hassle. So
yeah.
Europe was out.
Europe was out. I didn't even look at Portugal. I know a lot of people do, and Jen and I are going to visit Portugal one day and see. But I think we made the right choice for sure.
You have an ebook, Retired in Panama, that details your journey to moving here. What inspired you to write it?
When we first settled into our home in Coronado, we went to a meeting of the Beaches Business Networking meeting, and it's a great place where expats can learn about English-speaking businesses in the community and things like that. And we everybody introduces themselves, and I had been, since for the last year before that, had been writing a blog, which was detailing our journey, how this all happened, and
all the adventures that you have.
The adventures definitely play important part. And when I introduced myself, I simply said I'm retired, and all I do is write this blog. And one of the other people in the room, Lindy Allison, hosts writing workshops in Coronado at Tranquilo Retreat, and she came to me after the meeting and she said, "Greg, you do a lot more than write a blog. You're a publisher, you're an author." And I just kind of shrugged it off. I didn't think I would do anything different. And then I went to 1 or 2 of her workshops and started writing with a group of people that are all very talented. I started thinking, well, I have a lot of content. The blog has a lot of content, great pictures, but can I put those visions in all in words with no pictures? And so I sat down one day and I started just kind of writing, and I thought, well, this can be okay. Retired in Panama is the second edition. The first edition is good, and it's still available, but about 6 months ago I updated it. Every time Panama changes governments, things change, and sometimes things change drastically. And so I wanted to make sure that the immigration process was fine-tuned and
up to date.
Of that and up to date. One of my very good friends, has become a good friend. Actually, I met them. They tapped me on the shoulder at Gold Coast Brewery in Coronado and said, "Are you the guy that wrote that book?" And I said, and I was taken back. It was the first time that happened. And I said, "Yeah." And he says, "Well, I got to tell you, I love your book. My wife bought it for me for Christmas last year, and I've carried it with me in all of our exploring." And they had explored several possible retirement destinations. And later I got to sign his book, and it was torn and tattered and dog-eared and highlighted. And he says, "I've been using it for a retirement guide, for planning, and so, I was honored. I thought, well, I'm glad that it was good enough for that.
And that actually gives me chills, because so many times you think, okay, I didn't sell 50,000 or 100,000 copies, but you made such a difference in one person's life, and probably more than one person's life. And that is something we as creators, if we can touch one person at a time, wow, that's wonderful.
I do sometimes get a little bit depressed that when I look at my book sales, and I sold a whole $50 worth of books last month or whatever it is. But when I get the calls from people, and when I get the emails and stuff from people, and I do get a lot. Last night I got one that said, "We're moving to Panama next month, and I'm bringing pets, and you were identified as a person that can help me with that." And I think that's where I was going a minute ago when I was talking about that wasn't my experience. We didn't bring any pets. And so when I wrote the second edition of the book, there's a chapter about bringing your pets. And two very good friends that brought pets helped me with that chapter. And so now when I get a text like the lady last night that said, "I'm bringing my pets, I need help," I send me your email address, and I will have somebody get in touch with you that knows all about that.
Absolutely. Because one person can't know every single aspect. You know your experience. I think it's interesting because if you think about your life living in the United States, you probably couldn't have written a blog, a daily blog, a weekly blog. There wasn't that much interesting for most people living in the U.S. because you've lived that same life so many days, so many months, so many years. But when you move to a different country, there's an adventure every day.
There is.
So there's a lot to write about, a lot to blog about, a lot to learn about from other people.
Right.
I found when I moved here, I wanted to know everything bad that other people had experienced. Yes, I wanted to know the good, but I wanted to know the bad because I felt like if I moved to Panama and there were 10 bad things that I didn't know about, I was going to be pretty angry at somebody, who had kind of lured me into Panama had I not known. Now, the interesting things, for example, one of the things that the person told me was, "I hate it that there's trash on the side of the road."
Yes.
And so knowing that going in, now when I say trash on the side of the road, it doesn't bother me as much as it bothers other people, because I felt like, okay, I was made aware of that. It was in my vision, so to speak, before I moved here, so it doesn't bother me.
That's a really good perspective. When I wrote the original book, it came out at almost the same time as one of the other writers in our group released a very similar book, only hers was the bad and mine was the good. And mine released just a few weeks before hers. And at the very end of her book, she was dealing with a situation. I don't even remember what the situation was. And she said to a friend, "What do I do?" And her friend said, "Call Greg Kitzmiller." And because for us, everything went off without a hitch. But we did our due diligence.
Yes.
We didn't
Yes.
just come here and, jump right in and buy real estate. And, we just took our time and met the people and learned about the neighborhood.
And became educated.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think, too, there's also two different types of people. There's the half glass full and half glass
That's
empty sort of person. And if you're a half glass empty sort of person, I'll be honest, Panama may not be the right place for you because you're going to see everything that's negative. But if you are mostly optimistic, there are going to be, 90% of the things that you'll love. And there's going to be 10% of things that drive you crazy. Correct. But I think that's true of anywhere and of any interpersonal relationship even.
Right.
There's always going to be something about your spouse that makes you crazy. One of the first books that I wrote was a dating book. And it was back when I was a professional matchmaker. And I pitched it to the editors. And it was kind of the negative book. It was like, don't do this if you want to date and meet somebody. And it was like, if you want to meet somebody, you have to be at your leanest and meanest. And if you want to meet somebody, you have to be positive and put your best foot forward. And you can't just roll out of bed and put a ball cap on and go on a date and expect people to find you attractive. And one of the editors who looked at it wrote me back a note and said, "This is the most depressing thing I've ever written. I will never, ever represent you. Thank you. Have a nice life." And that was so hurtful to me because I thought I'm trying to help people. So the book that I ended up writing was a very raw, you can do it book. Right after my book came out, a negative book, She's Just Not That Into You, came out. And it was the same thing I had written, but it was written from a guy's point of view.
Oh, okay.
So it was, sometimes it's all about the delivery method and who's helping to champion it. So back to your book, Retired in Panama. You list so many things in the book that are helpful. Give me one or two tips that you think people need to know right now, today, before they even go out and buy your book.
Oh, when you land at the airport, don't rent a car there because it's going to be expensive. The insurance is going to be expensive. Rent from a rental agency outside the airport in maybe with the community where you're going to live. If you're going to live in Coronado.
That's great advice.
There's a couple of people there. And then when you get in your car to drive, expect everybody to do the unexpected and use Waze. Use Waze.
People will make a right-hand turn from the far left lane.
in stop signs, yield signs, turn signals, they're all a suggestion. A suggestion.
Jinx. It's a suggestion, not a rule.
And I always say use Waze and whatever it tells you, believe it. When we were on our way here today, it said, turn left and take this alternate route. And I said, I'm not doing that. I'm just going to sit in traffic and wait it out because it may not be as bad as we think. And it wasn't. But we have taken the alternate route and really been sorry because it could lead you down a two-track.
That's
anywhere.
right. One time we were going to a big derby race in Panama City, and we followed Waze, and it took us on the racetrack. So we couldn't be doing, here we are in our big hats and our high heel shoes, and obviously we couldn't get out in the racetrack. So we had to retrace our steps all the way back. That was an adventure.
I can top that one.
Okay.
We went to the rum distillery, and it was a Abuelo rum distillery way down in the middle of the Azarian Peninsula. And we were following Waze, and it said, turn now, or turn left now. And when we turned left, we were turning into a dirt road that went up over a hill. You couldn't see what was on the other side of the hill until you crested it. And when we got to the other side of the hill, we were in sugarcane, acres and acres of sugarcane. And all we could do was follow, because we didn't know where we were going. So we followed, And we went through 2 miles of sugar cane between the rows and came in the back gate of the distillery.
So it got you there, the farmer's way.
Got us there. When we told the tour guide, he laughed and he says, "Oh, you're not the first person that's ever done that." We were just really glad we had 4-wheel drive because it was a 4-wheel drive destination.
And back to your original comment about not using the big car rental agencies like Hertz and Avis and National. The reason is because they're going to give you a price online, $500. All of a sudden, you're going to go to pay for it, and it's going to be $1,000 or more, because what they do is they make you get insurance, which is on top of it, as well as some other fees. And people get so angry when they come here. We have no control of this.
No.
And as someone who manages rentals, we have 40 rentals that we manage, and that's one of their biggest complaints. This is outside of our control. So if you're going to rent a car, that's probably the last thing you want to do. Go to especially if you're going to be here a while. There are some good local ones.
We do know that most of the credit card companies won't cover your
insurance
here. Right? Like in other places, your credit card company will cover you for an unfortunate accident or something like that. Also liability, they won't cover you for liability here. So you have to take the insurance. If you find somebody to rent you a car that doesn't require insurance, it's a problem.
That's right.
The small mom and pop rental car companies, they pay for the complete coverage of the car. So when you rent it for $700 a week or whatever it is, it's everything.
That's right.
You're all in, all included, and that's what we did, and we have done, and we've had people do in the past, and it's worked well.
And I'll put a link to a couple of them in the show notes, because I think that is something that's very important. Now, coming back to the question, what were 2 things in your book that people have to know right now? That was 1. What's number 2?
If the decision has been made to retire here, then it's really important that you know the immigration process. And I went into a lot of research and a lot of detail about all the different visas and all the different work permits that are available, giving more weight to the most popular ones. The Pensionado visa is the one for retired people.
And the Friendly Nations.
And the Friendly Nations.
For the not retired people.
Yeah, for people that are going to work. And Friendly Nations visa, you'll have to get a work permit to go with that.
Not necessarily to work, but also with the Friendly Nations, if you're not a retired person or you don't qualify, if you don't have a pension of $1,000 a month, you have to get some visa.
Right.
So even if you're not going to work in Panama, the Friendly Nations is a good visa to get.
At the end of the day, there's over 50 different visas.
Exactly. There's something for everybody.
There is something for everybody. And if you're going to come here and work for a company in the United States by computer, you could be a digital nomad.
Right.
There's a lot of good reasons to do that, because the way people pay their taxes in Panama, if you don't have any Panamanian sourced income, then you don't pay taxes here. So a digital nomad will pay taxes where they earn it.
That's right. I read in your ebook that your wife experienced workplace violence and that 2 people were murdered. I mean, that just must have been so horrific. Do you think this was a catalyst in your desire to move overseas?
I do. I think we wanted to move to some place where we felt safer. That was probably the worst day of her life. And she probably wouldn't have retired at as young of an age if it hadn't been for that. I retired before her. I wasn't expecting to, but I had some unfortunate schedule difficulties at my job, and I was getting to the age where I just couldn't do it anymore. They wanted me to work all nights. So I retired a little bit before she did and started doing the research, and then this happened, and it was 2 people that she was really close with, and it affected her life forever.
Of course. So. I know me becoming a young widow, that was one of the catalysts for me moving here, was because like I wanted a fresh start. A lot of people said to me, what are you running away from, leaving the US? A lot of people couldn't understand it. And I was like, I'm not running away from something. I'm running toward something else, something, happier, more adventurous.
I like that. We didn't run away from anything either. We actually, our big draw probably was weather. We wanted,
of course.
We wanted eternal summer. I kept
That's
saying
right.
eternal summer. Every time the snowflakes started falling, we gotta get out of here. I just did not like the cold. We don't even have clothes for cold weather anymore.
Exactly. And I was on the opposite end of that, living in Dallas. We had very cold winters, but they only lasted, 6 weeks. But the summers lasted 6 months, and such a long period of time where it's 110 degrees just was wearing on me. So I came here for the good weather, but on the opposite end of that, because I wanted to get away from the heat.
I often joke about that. We had the opposite in the upper Midwest.
Right.
We had 6 weeks of summer.
And the rest winter.
Yeah, and the rest winter. So I would put the boat in the lake, and then it seems like I was taking it right back out because winter was back.
That's
so
right.
I want it to be summer all the time.
Greg, you and I have talked privately about how wonderful the artist community is in Coronado. Can you talk about why it's such a vibrant community?
I can't tell you why. I don't understand it. It's just there's live entertainment in the restaurants almost every night of the week. We have 2 entertainers that sing that we just love, Pascal Turner and John Carney, and there's a half a dozen more, Kevin Leo, Carla Carney. It's just there's always something to go and do and enjoy. That's that kind of art. And then when you talk about, the writers, I'm just blown away. There's 2 or 3 people launching books this month from my writers group. And the Art Zone across the street from Gold Coast has a gallery and art all by local artists that are mostly expats, but it's just, I guess, stuff people found out that they could do this stuff when they retired.
And it's interesting because so many times in history, you'll have these sort of colonies of creativity where people support one another, and the output is 100 times more exceptional than if they hadn't been part of this group. And I have 2 examples that I've been thinking about. The first is the Renaissance. Okay, this is a grandiose example, but during Italy, some of the greatest artists in history came out of this. People like Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, Botticelli, Bellini, Donatello. I mean, can you imagine like Donatello being an artist now? What happened if he wasn't part of this community? What happens if he created art and he just starved to death because nobody wanted to buy it? So I think being part of that community is so important. Another more recent example that I've just been reading about is, Elon Musk and the PayPal mafia. Do you know this story?
I don't think I do.
Musk lived in a house with a dozen other guys as they were starting PayPal. And out of the 13 housemates, 4 of them are billionaires, and the rest are multiple 8- and 9-figure millionaires. Now, their combined net worth is higher than the GDP of New Zealand. And out of this dynamic community, companies such as YouTube, Yelp, LinkedIn, and Tesla were born. And not to mention Founders Fund, which is one of the largest venture capital companies in the world that were the first investors in companies like Facebook and Airbnb. And again, these are grandiose examples, but I think sometimes being part of such a great community can up your game. You may not have written these books had you not landed in this artist community in Coronado.
Really, there's no may not about it. I wouldn't have. I love to read, but I probably wouldn't have started writing, in my fiction. My fiction came out in November, and A Murder in Eagle Cove, and I'm just about done with the rough draft of the second book of the series. There's going to be 3 that I'm sure there's going to be 3, maybe more, because the detective is popular characters.
Did you consider yourself a creative person before you moved to Coronado?
not so much.
Okay, so you found your creativity in your retirement.
I think so.
And being part of this group.
I think so.
That's amazing, because I think we all have sort of this inner something that we may not even know we have.
Right. I mean, I would never have gotten up and sang karaoke. I wouldn't get in front of a crowd of people and give a speech. I waited until I was 50 years old to finish my college education because I was afraid I was going to have to get up and speak in front of people. And this whole, there's a couple of the entertainers that if I'm sitting out there, will say, "Hey, you want to sing with me today?" And I'll go up and sing with them. I'm singing with the praise team at church pretty regularly.
And going back to your book, it's right here, A Murder in Eagle Cove. This is a murder mystery. What inspired you to write this?
It actually started in a writing workshop.
Okay.
My writers group wanted to do something a little bit different. So instead of meeting at Linda Allison's Tranquilo retreat, we caravanned to Boquete, and we checked in to a hotel in Boquete, and we found some natural space where we were writing. And a typical workshop will be the facilitator will give a prompt, and we'll write to that prompt, and then we'll write for 10 minutes, and then we'll go back and we'll read it between the group. Mm-hmm. And everybody gives feedback, mostly positive, about how the piece works, how mm-hmm. it doesn't, and you just write. You don't think about, you just write. And the prompt that day was, talk about something that doesn't smell right. And so I don't know what was going through my head that day, but my thing that didn't smell right was a dead body. And so I started writing about this dead body. And the rest of the group was, I got their attention. They were just amazed at what I wrote in 10 minutes. You got to keep writing. You got to finish that story. And so the second prompt, it almost fits. So, and there's no real rules about what you write or what you don't have to write. Sometimes I'll sit there and nothing occurs to me, so I'll write a newsletter post or something. But that day it worked, so I continued the story about the dead body in the attic. And the third prompt didn't work, but I still kept writing. And when that day was, when that workshop was over, I put it away and didn't think about it. I dragged it back out a month later, and I thought, can this be a book?
And it's interesting that was where you started, because as I was reading this, and it happens pretty early on, so I'm not giving anything away.
No.
There's a dead body in the attic, and he talks about how it smells. Now, if you're like most of us, we've never smelled a dead body. No. But we've smelled something dead.
Yes.
Remember one time I left a little seashell with a little critter in it in my garage, and it died, and you open the door to the garage, and there's that smell of death. And literally, I was transported from reading your description of the dead body. I was transported to my, I think I was 21 at the time, to how that smelled, because it was very visceral. So you did a good job of translating that and transporting us to what a dead body would smell like. And I remember kind of just getting all these heebie-jeebies over my body. Think, oh no, I don't want to smell that again.
Yes. Yeah, feel like flies are crawling on you and stuff.
So people can get this on Amazon.
Yes.
And I'll put the link below so you can go ahead and get that. Support the local artists. Yeah. Even if you're thinking about Panama, it'll be fun to read. He does touch on Panama. It's not based in Panama, but he does bring Panama into it, which was kind of fun.
I had to.
Yeah, of course, had to. Let's circle back to what we were talking about earlier. So many people just talk about the good parts about living abroad, but I think it's really important for people to get a full perspective and understand some of the negative things. What was the hardest thing for you when you moved to Panama?
The hardest thing, and it continues to be, is communication. I thought that I would learn Spanish, that I would learn it by osmosis. It doesn't.
Me too.
It doesn't happen. when you're old, it's hard to learn another language. And so my biggest problem is communication, and it's not so much ordering in a restaurant, because my wife will be the first to tell you that I know restaurant Spanish. I
and
don't
you can
miss
always
any
point,
meals.
right?
I don't miss any meals. So then it's more when you have to have a contractor in your house, a plumber to fix a leaky pipe, or somebody to install a new appliance or something like that. And I get so frustrated trying to communicate with them, because most of the workers, blue collar people that do that kind of thing do not speak English.
And their Spanish is also a little bit dirty.
Yes.
So it's not, it's just like, people who speak English. If people are not educated, they're going to speak a different sort of Spanish than they're going to speak. For example, instead of saying buenos dias, good day, they'll say buena dia. They cut it off.
Yes.
So that's just something to know, but you can still communicate with them via apps like Google Translate is my favorite.
Google Translate works well. There's another one now that's getting really, really a lot of good press about. It's Skype. Skype Translate will translate in real time. You speak into it, and it will translate from English to Spanish or Spanish to English on the spot, and even put it in your own voice. So that's been our latest, best way to communicate with our staff.
And I don't know if you've noticed, but Greg and I are wearing matching hats today.
Yeah.
I actually did this on purpose because I've seen him in other interviews and saw that he had his author hat on, his Panama hat. This is what I consider is my author hat too, because it's what I use a lot of times for my promotion of my Panama books. So yes, we're matching with our Panama hats.
Retired in Panama has a whole chapter on Panama hats.
Greg, you talked about one of the challenges of living in Panama, but tell me about what's the best thing about living in Panama.
Well, I think the best thing is the cost of living, the amount of money we save. There's some things that don't cost less, while others are significantly less, like insurances and HOAs. We saved enough on our insurance to justify our move here.
That's crazy when you think about what you pay in insurance and property taxes and HOA, to have that shrink by so much, because those are big buckets of things. So to have that be so small that it justifies your move, that's incredible. And a lot of buildings, like my building, still has a tax exoneration for another 9 years.
Ours too.
That means there's no property taxes. And how beautiful is that? I get to take that money and travel.
Right, exactly. We looked at that, and even when we have to start paying our taxes, I think they're only going to be about $800 a year.
Right. So even after the tax exoneration ends, the taxes will still be low. I know I've talked in past podcasts about how when you compare those three buckets of things, the HOA, the property tax, and the insurance, compared to someplace like Miami that has higher premiums because they have hurricanes, usually you're paying about 1/12. For one entire year here, it only pays about 1 month of insurance in Miami. California is also very expensive. You had lived in the Midwest though, which was a little less expensive, but still coming from the Midwest to here, you're saving a lot of money.
We were paying over $4,000 a year in property taxes in the Midwest.
Right.
So we can pay country club, HOAs, all the insurances, whatever taxes we pay a tiny, tiny piece on the ground that the building sets on.
Right, the land tax.
And it's not even close to what we were paying in just taxes.
That's right. You pay everything and still have money left over to travel and go out to nice dinners. And speaking of dinners, I was just in the U.S. and frankly, I had sticker shock at the price of some of the restaurants. I went to a steakhouse. It wasn't a big name steakhouse. It was a steakhouse in a strip mall.
Yeah.
The first thing the waiter says to me is, I want to tell you, nothing comes with the steak. It's a la carte. and it was $80 a steak. In Panama, first of all, there's no place you can go and pay $80.
No.
If you're paying $30, which is kind of the more reasonable amount you'll pay for steaks here, but in a restaurant here that's not a steakhouse, you're going to be paying $15, $20 for your whole meal that has accompaniments and has sides.
We go to a couple places where we have a really nice steak for $18.
And the other thing is tip, and I'm going to get on my little bandwagon here, because here the tip at any service, whether it's a massage or a restaurant, is 10%. And maybe I've been in Panama too long. I've been here 12 years. But going back to the U.S. and hearing now that it's 22% to 30% to give a tip, it's hard for me to digest.
The costs are so much more. The tip should be less.
It should be part of it. Absolutely. So you save money not only in your big three, the insurance, property tax, and HOA, but also in those smaller things.
Yeah. We have the retirees pension visa.
Yeah, the pensionado visa gives you a lot of discounts.
It does. There's a whole list of them, including your earn if you were to die here.
But URN.
URN. But 25% on restaurants, 25 to 40% on hotels, and we
airline
use
tickets.
that. Airline tickets. We use it for the airline, and we use that a lot. My practice is when we use it in a restaurant, I give it to the server.
That's very nice.
Above and beyond the 10%. Especially if they don't ask me, a lot of them know me or that I'm going to ask for
right.
it. If they don't ask me and they give it to me anyway, I'm going to give it back to them.
Because a lot of times, especially at local restaurants, you might, it's $10. So your 25% discount is $2.50. It's not really going to mean the world to you, but it will mean a lot to the servers.
Yeah.
So that's very kind of you.
We usually don't ask for it on a $10 meal.
Right.
Except McDonald's.
Why not?
Why not? Yeah, they can afford it.
Another place to save money is on maid service.
Yes.
Probably most people in the U.S. will have somebody who comes and cleans their house once or twice a month. But what I found is that now those prices have gone up, and a lot of people are paying $200, $300, or $400 per cleaning to have your house cleaned. Where here you can get a daily maid who takes excellent care of you, like your favorite aunt would, for the same price.
Yes.
And you're supporting someone. I know that when I leave, the person I miss the most is my maid. I love her.
I can believe that.
She does everything for me. She keeps me organized, keeps my house spotless, washes my clothes, feeds my dogs. What's not to love?
Yeah, the guy that takes care of your car wash too. We pay $6 to have our car washed and waxed and cleaned inside and out.
So there is a little bit of a price difference between Coronado and the city.
Yeah.
We were talking beforehand, and so he pays $6 for an inside-out detail car wash. I pay $10. Now my person comes to me. Does your person come to you?
No, I take it to him.
Okay, so maybe it's not a $4 differential because it's not apples to apples, but I know a lot of you will probably laugh when you think $6, $10. It's all in the noise when it comes to somebody taking care of your car both inside and out. I don't even know in the U.S. right now if you can get an outside car wash for $10.
I don't think so.
One of those drive-thrus.
Yeah.
Now, in your book, you detailed a lot of information about what happens when you die abroad. This was interesting to me because I'm a widow, and I feel like I should have thought about this ahead of time, but it never occurred to me of what, happens to your body when you die in a foreign country. So talk to me about the process of your research and what you found out both for Americans and for non-Americans.
I knew when I was writing the book that I needed to address this there. It fortunately isn't something that I had to deal with personally, but we had a friend who lost her husband here. And so I just really went and did the research, went to the embassy website and just did the footwork. So if it happens to you and you've got my book handy, you can open it and figure out what to do first and what to do next. One of the most important things that you need to know is that if you die here, to get a death certificate, you have to be under a doctor's care or in a hospital, and then one of those will issue the death certificate. If you die at home and you're not under a doctor's care, then there'll be an investigation and an autopsy before one will be issued. And that they'll also, if there's a doctor's bill or a hospital bill, that'll have to be paid before they'll issue a death certificate. So those are kind of important things to know. The next thing you need to do is contact the embassy if you're American. I assume Canadian will be pretty similar.
Contact the Canadian embassy. If you're from UK, contact the Great Britain embassy.
Yeah,
exactly.
The embassy will send a representative out to, especially if you're a single person, if you don't have a spouse or other family here, they'll send somebody out to inventory your personal belongings so that your heirs can get your stuff. There's just a bunch of strokes you have to go through, probably a few more than what you would if you were living in the United States, but they'll help you through that. And they'll they'll tell you how many copies you need of this and how many copies you need of that and who needs them. And
how about transporting the body or the remains back home?
I think when you read the book, you were probably had sticker shock because
I did.
The numbers.
I thought you could just stuff the cremated remains in a backpack and take them on the plane. And lo and behold, you can't.
Well, probably not supposed to. The research, the embassy website had a bunch of prices, and it wasn't their prices, but it was what they found the price to be. And to transport a body or even an urn with ashes is pretty expensive to go back to the United States. So, I think we talked about this beforehand. We have a friend that took her mother's ashes back on a flight to the United States. She disclosed it, and I don't know if she had all the documentation, but it worked for her. I don't know if it would work for everybody.
Greg, what's the one thing that you thought you would have to have in your life in Panama that now that you're here, you're thinking, oh my goodness, what was I thinking? It's ludicrous. I don't need that.
Mail.
Mail, that's right. We don't have a mail
system in Panama.
So you don't get mail, and it is liberating, isn't it?
Absolutely.
To not get 20,000 things in your mailbox every day. I thought I couldn't live without a garbage disposal. I thought it would be the first thing I would put in because they don't use them here. Their maid just empties the little catch-all thing every day. And I've now lived without one for 12 years. And I had to ask my friend when I went to her house kind of how to use the garbage disposal.
Yes.
It's been so long since I've used one. Is there anything else you didn't bring that you don't miss at all?
Oh, we didn't bring any winter clothes.
Me either. But look at the weather. I mean, it's beautiful. Why do you need a winter coat?
We don't even have winter clothes to carry back with us. We just tell people we don't have clothes for that if they want us to come in a cold.
That's right. Well, as we're wrapping this up, I'm going to go ahead and post the links to get Greg's books in the description below. So make sure and support him. If you have any questions, maybe you can come to Panama and join his writers group.
Yes.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more exciting content about Panama. Turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Your support helps us bring you more amazing stories and insights. Greg, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
See you in the next video. Cheers.